Folks, Florida made news when a mid-rise condominium complex fell in Miami. And folks, there's many other nightmares in the residential market that take place every day on brand new houses. I hear it every weekend in the comments. People are constantly flooding in saying, hey, the new construction community in the Florida marketplace is dangerous to buy in. It is terribly built. And folks, all of this since 2020 has been exacerbated as builders build a record number of houses across Florida that has not been seen in a decade. As our population shoots up, as many folks from around the country make their plans to retire to Florida, as we had record low interest rates, many people took the jump to go ahead and construct new properties. That is one of the most high demand types of properties to purchase for anyone looking to move here. But folks, some of the stories coming out of those that bought new construction whose homes are so poorly built, less than a year old, they're constantly having water intrusion, water coming through the walls. Some situations so bad that homeowners had to immediately move out and wait months or up to a year for anything to be done to reconcile the property. All the while they're paying the mortgage payment on a property they don't live in and paying an apartment bill to live down the street. Check this out.
Tonight, a single mom paid more than $500,000 in May for a new construction home in Waimama, where she planned to live with 3 children and her father, who's a disabled veteran.
But multiple construction problems have prevented the family from moving in.
X's marked where floors squeak.
About 95% of the floors were redone.
Since Perez bought the house, walls and ceilings have come down so crews could repair and replace warped and bowed framing, ceiling joists, and trusses. Spokesperson responded in a written statement blaming the problems on subcontractors and writing, quote, since learning of Ms. Perez's concerns, we have completed multiple repairs and have been in regular contact with her. We have additional work and testing scheduled in the home, which we anticipate will be completed on a timely basis over the next couple of weeks.
They're the biggest builder in America last year, $30-some billion in sales. And you can't get them to pay for your apartment, for putting you up and your storage.
I asked them for reimbursement, and they told me it is not their policy to reimburse.
Insanity. And folks, I could show you case after case like this all day. Check this story out that caught my eye this week.
Their dream home has turned into a nightmare.
They're paying on a house they can't live in, can't sell, and can't finish. They blame their builder. Turns out, so do some other families.
The Evans say their builder blew the budget.
The wrong windows are put in there. Those windows were first over there.
Upstairs is more of the same.
The vaulted ceiling in our master was unvaulted at first.
We decided to go with carpet, which isn't in here yet.
Folks, this is the Orlando metro area. They were sold leaky homes in the pricey Winter Park area. Now they're demanding builders pay for repairs. Now, folks, a large national builder, Taylor Morrison, they build in multiple states all across the country. I think they actually even build in Europe, particularly the UK, if I'm not mistaken. But folks, these are expensive houses. This is a guard-gated community. Residents here, there's 230 properties here in Hawks Crest. And now as I'm gonna show some of the footage, because I was actually able to get out there and film, the unbelievable thing about this story is there are 230 homes built, recently built in this neighborhood, and over 30 of them have homeowners in the same situation where it says right here in this story, we all had water coming in from the same places. And get this, folks, because sometimes you don't find these crazy stories happening, the houses degrade over time. Listen to this, it says about a year into her purchase, Serber said she started noticing her baseboards were coming off the walls, and after downpours, she would see that her walls were soaked, the corners of her carpets were soaked, and ultimately, folks, this is bad news in Florida for reasons I'm gonna point out in a second. Lest you believe, oh, Jared's just showing us stories where one person, entire neighborhood has this really crazy experience. That could never happen to me. Watch this.
It looked like an unfinished home that's still under construction, but it was finished. In fact, the family moved in, and only after living here for a few weeks did they notice problems literally coming out of the woodwork.
Let's root down here.
When did you start noticing it was not perfect?
When we started hanging up pictures. So the first couple pictures, I'm like, well, the frame is crooked, of course, you know? And then it was every one was crooked. And then we started noticing certain walls, you know, bowed and sloped. They started opening things up. And the more they opened up, then they opened up other places. And it got to the point where there was drywall that had been opened up in every single room and every bathroom of the home.
Exposing problems down to the framing. Pardee started making fixes, shaving down beams, plugging holes with drywall mud.
And then over here you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 shims.
And using shims to shore up wood. The family had to pack up and move out for the repairs, but they never returned because Tam claims the fixes led to even bigger problems. Tam hired an independent structural engineer whose 36-page report details dozens of construction defects, from poor quality lumber that splinters to the touch.
You can pick it apart.
The wood apart.
Yeah.
It's like toothpicks.
To crooked and insecure walls, to doors that don't seal.
I've had it with this dump. We got no food, we got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off!
Folks, as you can see in these situations, nightmare is an understatement. And again, I'm telling you, this is a brief synopsis of the many stories I could share with you that are just in driving distance from where I work in the real estate market. But because this is such a critical problem, today in this video, I'm gonna show you why and how it happens. I'm gonna show you how you can prevent it if you ever intend to buy a new construction home, or you just wanna know how this process should go better. And number 3, best of all, if you ever find yourself in a nightmare situation already where you've tripped up on this video because your new construction house is falling apart, and the best method that I know of in 20 years of real estate experience, how to get to the top of your builder's list and get the attention you need to get through that nightmare crisis as fast as possible.
Change is coming, my fellow Americans. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Now, folks, no matter where you live, these instances are absolutely terrifying. But if you live in Florida, one of the craziest things that we all need to know and consider is the fact that Florida is a very wet climate. We have humid air. We have high rain levels, like 4 feet a year in our state. And when your home is not watertight, folks, wood, drywall, all the building materials that are on the interior of your home, if those get wet, that becomes an instantly appealing habitat for bacteria to grow in your home. The M word, mold. And mold spreads, folks, and it's terrible for your body. We already know some people are super allergic to it. And I don't know all the health data, but I've heard people tell me they have long-range health implications by being in moldy situations. And folks, as I told you earlier, these 35 residents here recently in Orlando have active mold growth in their home at their own admission, and the builder is doing nothing. And it rains again and again, and there's more bacteria growth. And I don't know how there's not an escapable concern for liability in these cases, when at least the lady in this particular article looks middle upper aged, her home is wet, probably constantly getting wet, there's no containment, and these types of issues can completely spiral and become super expensive. But folks, as much as everybody loves new construction, let me tell you a huge downside to new construction versus buying a 20-year-old home. In a 20-year-old home, that home has been stress tested, if you will, to a point. The known defects are probably well exposed by the time you get in and purchase that home. Whereas a new home, the secrets can come out. Like in that case I showed you earlier, where the house was built and framed in studs, and then Hurricane Ian came and everything swelled and the whole house was stripped, and a ton of rework has to be done before that poor family can even move in. Now imagine if there was a street of homes like that, you're gonna have major expense. And again, look what happened in so many of these cases. They didn't figure it out until year 1, year 2, year 3. And I get it, there's a lot of upside to buying new right now. In Florida, we have epic high property insurance, and newer homes get lower insurance rates than older homes because they're less of an insurance risk. New home builders will buy your interest rate down to 5 and 6% right now and dump $40,000, $50,000 on top of the sale of your home in cash incentives and all kinds of other things. And the other thing is, the place you want to live, new construction may be a way better option when compared to what a 5-year-old home down the street is asking, apples to apples. And folks, yes, I know, everybody likes the new. They like the new home smell. No one's ever lived and slept in my bedroom. But folks, that no one has lived in it is also a risk when you're the first buyer to own that property, and you will find things first. Which is in fact why week after week you can drop in my comments and see frustrated new home builders complain about how poorly built their homes are and all of the headaches they've ensued. And ultimately my goal here is to tell you why and how to prevent it and how to deal with it if it happens to you. But folks, aside the fact that Florida particularly is a super wet climate, mold and bacteria grows like crazy when the building of a home is done improperly, and a downside to actually buying new is the fact that when you find these issues out, they become disclosable events that then can stigmatize your entire community. So these folks here in Orlando, they look like they're about to sue Taylor Morrison and enter into a litigation battle possibly with the builder. Folks, in Florida, if you have mold grow in your home, you have bacteria issues, you have flooding, water damage, a sinkhole open up across the street, presto, out of the blue, guess what has to happen? When you as the seller go to sell that home, even if your home wasn't under damage, if there was construction defect blanketed across your neighborhood, you just might find yourself in a position where you then have to tell the next buyer about that whole situation and open up a can of worms for the buyer's mind when they go to buy your house. Now, do you think that's going to help them pay a higher price for your house? Obviously not. And now the builders who have made record profits over the past 3 years have pulled completely out of this neighborhood. You have these 230 homeowners behind, 30 to 40 of them are now screwed with leaky houses. It's very likely that could affect the value of the rest of the neighborhood who weren't even impacted by it. And talk about losing the lottery, just a mile from my home, a huge sinkhole opened up in front of $1.5 million homes. Now all those beautiful, expensive $1.5 to $2 million property owners have to disclose that there's sinkhole dangers nearby. Now ask me how to prevent that one. Got no answer for you on that. Now, folks, legislators know that these problems can creep up over time, so they've created the law to give you time to bring your case to the courts if that's what needs to happen for you to remedy your situation. Now, take note, the common time duration in most states is 10 years to bring your case up if your builder is fighting and not fixing the situation. But folks, in 2023, the statute of limitations was reduced to 7 years. That's how much time you've got to create legal action if you have a problem for your house. So why does it happen, folks? According to the builders, step number one, it's the subcontractor's fault. But folks, I'll tell you this, as a 20-year working professional in real estate, the number one cause of why this really happens is people are lulled to sleep in the buying process of a new home. It's what's called a system. It's a cog in the wheel. It goes from here to here, and it's remarkably efficient to buy a new house in America. And sadly, something that's that expensive shouldn't be operated like fast food, but it was, and it was done even more so over the past 3 years. Think about this. The builders had so many buyers for one single house that they themselves could decide what your upgrades were for a new house. By the way, folks, if you were lucky, you got to pick from what was called a curated package. That means the builder picked out package A, the carpet, the tile, the color of counters, the cabinets, all pre-selected in package A, but there might have been a B and maybe a C. That was as close as 90% of the builders would even let you get to picking anything out in this fast food operation of buying a new house. And if you were lucky, you could biggie size it, but probably not. And I get it, some of the builders had to do this because there were so many products in decline. The ability for these builders to get your purple countertops or something uniquely custom was just really nearly impossible, and it wouldn't enable them to throw up thousands of homes at a time. But folks, let's come back to how does the system move with me not noticing that my house could potentially fall over or it could leak? Because you trusted the builder. The builders have these benign operatives and phases that are designed to keep you thinking there's great confidence in this product that's being given to you. Things like phase walks. Ring, ring, ring. Hey, Mr. Superintendent Sammy. Oh yes, my studs are up. I get to walk it. Oh yeah, come on down. We're gonna give you a hard hat. They give you a hard hat, you walk in, there's studs everywhere. What are you, a structural engineer? You don't know what you're looking at. You see concrete on the floor, you see sticks holding up the roof, you think, hey, everything's okay.
Which contributed to the components being exposed to weather for a prolonged period. Adding, it was certainly apparent that the walls, roof trusses, and floor trusses had exposure, resulting in some members becoming warped/bowed.
And I kept asking, what are you going to do for me? How are you going to make this right?
And what'd they say?
We're going to give it back to you the way you should have received it to begin with.
All right, folks, we already know the problems are extensive, but we need to know how to prevent them. I'm going to be very clear on what you should follow if you ever decide to buy a new house. Make sure you avoid these issues. And next, after that, I'm going to show you if you end up in the nightmare situation, how you can put the builder on notice and have them jump behind you to get these problems fixed much faster than they typically do. Because folks, one of the things that massively keeps me up and concerned about all these situations is all these announcements of recession. Understand, Taylor Morrison, a lot of these companies, they have record profits right now, and they're still difficult to work with to get these items dealt with in a timely manner. And they're stingy and stubborn with resolution while making billions of dollars every year.
We're joined here at Post 9 by Taylor Morrison CEO Cheryl Palmer. The stock is up 55% year to date, hitting an all-time high.
What do you think's happening in the next phase of our economy if we see recessionary pressure? All of a sudden, they're cutting, they're worried about their profits. They don't have near the manpower and staff to deal with these massive disruptions to your life as a home you spent $500,000, $600,000, $800,000 for crumbles around you. Prevention is top concern. Now, folks, the number one advice I give to every single homebuyer and how you can prevent is you need a good inspector. Now, folks, listen, when I say inspector, you don't send the inspector in on new construction at the very end. You have to hire what's called a phase inspection series from any inspector you hire. That means they have to come back time and time again. They have to see inside the walls. They have to see how your house was wired. They have to see how it was framed. They have to catch the mistakes before they're covered up, and that's when you get in trouble. Now, folks, listen, just like any caliber of professional, you can have folks that just jumped out of school, got their license. That is not the person you want to hire for this type of job. You need someone with decades of experience wherever you buy. They need to have tons of experience being on the side of seeing those houses and inspecting them over time, catching them. They need to be able to work backwards and see where those causal issues are so that they could point them out along the way. And folks, as I told you before, the city building inspectors do not work for you. They don't know who you are and could care less to the degree that a person you hire is going to come on the job. And when you cut them a check, they're for sure knowing that your expectation is you have to cover them. You have to find something wrong because they pay you to do it.
Out there, I know this, if we don't get penalties and we don't get fumbles and we don't get interceptions, we can win the dadgum ball game.
Thank you, Coach. Mark, we got our first dadgum of the night.
Now, folks, one of the best things that I can tell you is that if you really have money on the line, you have a bigger investment, or you have enough capital for you to really make sure and protect yourself, you would even consider hiring a structural engineer to do the phase inspection. All things apply. Someone with deep experience in the field needs to be on your side when you go through this process. You can see a lot of the people that I showed you earlier in this video who came on site to give them the deep reporting they needed to deal with the builders when their house is about to fall over. Engineers. Folks, engineers are the special forces of this type of response. These men and women are incredibly sharp and intuitive when it comes to details. Now, folks, be warned, when you do this, when you hire someone for your interest to come in and watch out over your shoulder, you are going to kick a hornet's nest with the builder. And oftentimes that dream advisor, superintendent basically that works the entire street for the builder, is supposed to design, hold your hand to keep you satisfied and pacified and asleep all the way through the process. That person is going to be enormously pissed when you or your agent, good time to have an agent, by the way, goes and intervenes to that person and says, hey, look at this. By the way, we had a phase inspection done. This is a problem. This needs to be remedied. And old Mike's going to be like, dadgum, man, that's okay. We've done this before. It's going to be fine. They're going to be pissed because your inspector who knows the code came in and said, this has to be done right. They will not like it. And I'm telling you folks, because over the years, I've recommended these kinds of things take place. I've seen things sour needlessly. The buyer who's buying an expensive house, the sweetest people on planet Earth, all of a sudden turn off the dream advisor superintendent guy, Mike, who's pissed at them for dare bringing up the fact that their home isn't being built properly.
That they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
All right, folks, let's skip to step 3. You're in trouble. Your nightmare has begun. You have black mold all over your house. You can't even breathe inside this place. Your new home, you think the builder might need to take a wrecking ball to it and start over again. Folks, if you find yourself in the position where you're panicking because you've got a flood like a river through your house every time rainfall starts, what are you gonna do about it? Here's what you do. Step number 1, you're still going to play nice. You're not going to go instant adversarial. You're going to grab your contract. You might even take it to your attorney, which is highly advisable upfront, to find out what your recourses are and go from there. Step 1 fails. Step 2, attorney shifts into active fight mode. This might include letter writing and things of that nature to get the process started, but this isn't DEFCON 3. DEFCON 3, my friends, is where you, without fail, will access the fear of the builder gods and drive them to solve your problem. Folks, I must admit it. I hate to say what this is, but it's a fact. Step number 3, social media. That's right. Dare I say it? I can't say it. TikTok. And by the way, if you're a Floridian, don't give a dadgum about social media. Allow me to share your clip so you understand what TikTok is.
When he says that he's married.
Bring the action.
What the hell is TikTok? Like, why would you use a dancing app to chase after married people? And why would you do it dressed like a frickin' dairy cow? You made a whole shirt out of Rorschach's mask.
That's TikTok, folks, but that's not the actual power of TikTok. Check this out.
So called D.R. Horton back. They kept throwing me to the warranty company. The warranty company said there's no chance that this is going to be covered on the warranty because it's the stone veneer. Under their technical terms, it's not structural, so it's all on me. I wanted to talk to someone to come out here to confirm that this was put together right. As you saw from the attic, there is some concern with how that was built. So I ended up throwing a reel out there. For a few of you guys that watch the channel have some expertise in this realm, and also a few of you know a few folks at D.R. Horton, but still, nothing. So I thought, what do kids nowadays do when they have something to complain about? They go to TikTok. I don't do much on there. I'm not a big fan of the platform. It was kind of my Hail Mary, my last resort. The overnight did 100,000 views. Within 24 hours, it was at 1 million views, but still no response. So I put a second post out there telling the truth in my kind of sarcastic way, and it was up to about 1.5 million views overnight, up to 2 million views the first day, and it's up to nearly 5 million views at this point. That got their attention. The local compliance manager gave me a call, told me they're coming out on Monday.
This is coming down and being rebuilt back up, and they're gonna throw 2 steel beams across both those arches, fix the inside, put OSB. Holy shnikes, it worked.
Now, folks, as I mentioned earlier, there are good agents, there are bad agents. There are good inspectors, there are bad inspectors. What are the attributes you want from a good agent when it comes time to buy a new construction? Well, number one, you want one that you feel has the experience and the drive to be an excellent negotiator, to not take any crap, to be able to read into the play when they're communicating with other people, a good read of character of others, because the parties on the other side in a builder transaction can be difficult. So you want to be direct and assertive without actually burning all of the bridges, because a lot of times we as agents have to work with these same people over and over again. Number two, you want an agent who knows all the junk fees that are coming at you. Yes, that's right. Every time you buy a new construction house, there are going to be thousands of dollars of junk fees in every single closing. Much of it you can't get out of it. Much of it you can down negotiate it. And one of the most important things that would be critical to this particular problem in the video we've outlined today is, do they have great vendor resources, particularly for those phased inspections, and give you a variety of folks to interview to make sure your best interest is carried all the way through the closing. Good luck out there.